you're never late as long as you arrive. As long as you put your best foot forward to sort through all of those things, it's always in perfect timing. It's always in perfect divine timing.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Today we got my man AJ Throwback. We are discussing his most recently released EP, The Late Bloomer. That's the name of it, right?
That's right. That's right.
The Late Bloomer, as well as his life as a day in the life of his as an independent artist.
That's a
All
great
good?
intro. That's a great intro. I love it.
Cool,
I love
cool.
it.
So, and this is the first time I get to do this. Today's show is brought to you by Batch. Balance is a master key to life. Unlock your expression.
My man.
Y'all go over to www.bam, that's BAMMLLC.net/shop Batch. Check out the apparel, t-shirts, hats, mugs. I don't know what else he got, but y'all check him out.
Got some face masks too. Got some mouse pads. You know what I'm saying? About to have some bomber jackets soon. So, be on the lookout.
Yeah. Let me, I'm going to pin it. In the, sponsorship, baby. Sponsorship. This is my first sponsorship.
That's right. Gonna get you right with that gear too, bro.
I need a deal. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I need something. Make sure I put it in there right. That's you see the comment. That's right.
That's right.
Cool.
Perfect. My man, appreciate you.
So let's jump into it.
Yes, sir.
The Late Bloomer. It reminds me of myself in a lot of ways. It's an album and an album of introversion from an introvert.
Yes.
Right. So I'll let you describe it. What's the overarching theme of the project?
So the overarching theme of the project is basically from the perspective of getting to a certain point in your life, maybe not when you expect to get there, and sorting through a lot of your personal battles, whether it's internal battles, external battles, whether it's things that you been through as a child, things you've been through as an adult, things you've been through as an adult because of things you might not have resolved as a child or a teenager or whatever, and really understanding that you're never late as long as you arrive. As long as you put your best foot forward to sort through all of those things, it's always in perfect timing. It's always in perfect divine timing, because I always look at it from the perspective of, for years, and in fact, I had a conversation with one of my good friends from college. One of the things that she was saying was how she feels like she wants to be happy for everybody else, but she was saying how she's wondering, when is it going to be my turn? And that was the same thing that I had to kind of sort of wrestle with for years myself. Like, as much as I was, celebrating everybody else, I was wondering when it's going to be my turn. And what God was trying to show me through that process was that it's going to be your turn, but you have to sort through a lot of the things that you have to sort through in order for you to appreciate your turn. You have to sort through these personal things in order to appreciate the professional realm a lot more, because a lot of times people bring their baggage into this game and they don't resolve those things. And the problem with fame is that fame magnifies whatever your issues are. Fame is going to magnify it. If you have issues with being a womanizer, if you have issues with addiction, if you have issues with gambling, if you have issues with not managing money well, if you have issues with how you handle relationships and friendships, those things are just going to be magnified even more with fame. And so the Late Bloomer is an exploration into, how do I manage these things, and how have I tried to sort these things out within myself? before trying to really step out on a limb being an artist, because there's a certain responsibility with being an artist that people don't always, they don't take up that mantle. And for me, it's important to address those things so that people can trust me, not only as an artist, but as a person. If you're not willing to be transparent about who you are as a person, then people are less likely to connect with whatever music that you're making. You know, like it's just surface at that point.
Mm. Wow. So you touched on two things, and if you see me looking like this, it's because I'm taking notes on what you're saying, and I'm
It's
trying to
all good.
retain. So I'm working on it.
It's all good.
Was the quote, "You're never late as long as you arrive"?
Yes, that's right.
That's a beautiful quote, young. I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Um, do you have you ever dealt with or struggled with the idea that an MC is supposed to be a young 20-year-old man with skinny jeans and have a certain type of thing? Like,
Yeah,
did you go through that?
I did. I did. What's funny is that I'll never forget when I dropped my second mixtape, the 8-track Bandit. I dropped this, I want to say 2010, the summer 2010. And I remember reaching out to somebody about my music. And, you know, I sent it to him and he was honest with me. He was like, yo, I like your music a whole lot, but I know the crowd that I'm representing and they want something that cranks. And you know what I'm saying? In 2010, you know what crank mean. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a certain type of vibe you looking for. This is when like Drake just started popping, Rick Ross was popping, Lil Wayne was popping, like those type of artists were popping. So
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I had to compete with them, or I felt like I had to make
Mm-hmm.
music along those lines in order to be relevant, so to say. So I'm not gonna lie, it actually changed the scope of my music. And not necessarily for the better, because I didn't really feel like it was me. I felt like some of this stuff was me, but then I felt like a lot of it was like me trying to fit in. And so then I just got to a point of self-exploration, like what type of artist do I want to be? And who's my audience? Who's my crowd? And I think a lot of times the mistakes that artists make is that we want to make our music for everybody, but our music isn't for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you know, I'm 42 years old. I'm not making music for people, for kids. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not, like that's not my lane as an artist, because my stories are grown man stories.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be something that a lot of the younger people can appreciate when they're older, but you know, 20-year-old me is not the same as 42-year-old me. You know what I mean? Like it's a totally different person. So it's like I got to the point where I realized like I have to embrace where I am in life and celebrate that point in my life, because not a lot of people growing up where we grew up, you know what I'm saying, didn't make it to this point. You know, the fact that I'm 42 years old, grew up in Ward 8, DC, and I'm still here to talk about it, like you doggone right I'm gonna celebrate the fact that I'm 42. And I'm not gonna hide it, and I'm not dying to graze or none of that. You know what I'm saying?
I
Like
got
you
a
gonna
couple
get
to be
all of these
creeping
jumps.
in. You gonna get all of these joints.
You gonna get all this work right here. You know what
Wow,
I
man.
mean?
20 is not 40.
No.
Oh, wow. I won't go into a long story about that, but I will tell you that I've been through something similar, and I had to explain to someone like, listen, bro, we haven't been tight like that for over a decade. You can't expect me to be, think, feel, respond the way I did when I was 20. That's just not what it is. Not even 30. You know what I'm saying? We different
Right.
people now. I grew. So you mentioned something about responsibility, right?
Hmm.
As an artist, and we talking hip hop, so this matters.
Yeah.
Who are we as artists? Who are we responsible to?
We're responsible to a lot of people. We're responsible first and foremost to ourselves. We have to be true to ourselves and who we really are. I think a lot of times people want to put on for, you know, their neighborhoods. They want to put on for, you know, their culture. They want to put on for so many different things, and all of those things are fine. I totally celebrate that and encourage that, because that's part of when you function in a high context culture. But you have to be responsible to yourself first. You have to be a role model to yourself first. You have to say, okay, I know exactly who I am. I know the type of music that I want to make. This is the type of music that I would want to hear if I were, from the outside looking in. So it's a matter of, okay, I'm responsible to myself first to be true to myself. From there, we have to be responsible as, MCs and artists in terms of the young people that are coming behind us, because
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, excuse me, when you think about this, something my wife always talks about when it comes to generations. People always, or they tend to look up to about 10 years older than who they're who they're listening to or who they're admiring. So
Mm-hmm.
that means like the bottom of my range on average is somebody that's in their early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So these are people that are starting to that are really starting to get in their groove of life. Their brains are fully developed by this point. So it's like the music that I'm putting out has to be something that gives them encouragement to go for higher when they get to my point of life. But then even the people that's even younger than them, like young people, teenagers, kids, my thing is, as an artist, you don't want to make music that influences kids negatively. From a spiritual perspective, you don't want to make music that influences them negatively. You want to make music that influences them to be their best selves or the best versions of themselves. Because the thing is about, like, just thinking about my particular narrative, a lot of my stories, they're not, even though I always call it grown man music, these aren't just grown man stories, because the late bloomer, the first part of late bloomer, because it's going to be two parts. This first EP, this is coming from the perspective of pre-adolescence, from the time that I'm about 6 years old to the time I'm about 10 years old, primarily. And so these are things that kids can relate to. These are things that adults can relate to. A lot of these things that I'm talking about. And for me, it's very important how I say what I say. I watch how I say it. I don't do a lot of cussing in my music. You know what I'm saying? Like I used to cuss more, but I even then I didn't really cuss like just wild cussing, like you gotta bleep out every word. You know what I
Right, right,
mean?
right, right.
But like now at this point, like once I got to the my second mixtape, I stopped cussing in my music, like for the most part. Like I might say
Mm-hmm.
certain words because it's in context or it fits better or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But for the most part, I watch even how I talk, because it's like I don't want somebody's kid to be listening to my music and then say something wild and crazy, you know what I'm saying, listening to me. It's like, yeah, nah, I'm not trying to do that. Now, some of the stuff that I'll talk about is mature. It might be
Mm-hmm.
beyond the scope of somebody that's, in their pre-adolescent years, adolescent years, even young adult years. But for the most part, I'm very careful about what I say in my music, because I want anybody to be able to listen to it. But at the same time, I also look at it like you have to tell your truth still at the end of the day. But it's a way, here's the best way I can put it. Socially, social commentary is extremely important in music. You could talk about the streets. You could talk about a whole lot of unsavory topics, but it's how
Mm-hmm.
responsible are you when you're talking about it? Are you giving the pros as much as you're giving the cons? You know what I'm saying? Like, are
Mm-hmm.
you, because a lot of times what happens is artists, they just talk about the spoils of street life, or they'll just talk
Mm-hmm.
about the spoils of this or the spoils of that, but they don't talk about the downside. They don't talk about what they really think about when they're all alone. They don't really dig to that point. And so for me, you have to be, like I said, you have to be responsible to yourself. You have to be responsible to the young people that might be listening to your music. You have to be responsible to the culture of hip hop. You know what I'm saying?
I was waiting
Respect
for
the
you. I was
culture.
waiting for you to
You
say
already
that.
knew
I
I
knew
was
it was
going to say
coming. I said, you gotta
that.
respect the culture, the music itself. You know what I'm saying, and
Exactly,
all of that.
exactly, exactly. There's a
Yeah.
legacy to this, you know what I mean? Like that people
Mm-hmm.
literally had to fight in order to even get hip hop to be respected as a genre, as a culture itself. So knowing the struggles that, excuse me, really any black culture or musical genre that is rooted and grounded in our culture, or in the African diaspora, we have to fight extra hard. But for hip hop, you had to fight even harder. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
In order to get it respected in our community, let alone outside of our community. So knowing the fights that we've had to go through as a culture, it's like respect the legacy that this culture represents. This culture came out of not being heard, not being listened to. It came out of not having enough of. If you think about all the things that happened when the boom of hip hop began in the Bronx in the 70s, a lot of this stuff began because people didn't have instruments. You know what I'm saying? Instruments were
Mm-hmm.
expensive. You know, like when all
Right.
that stuff happened, the next thing you know was all these DJs that popped up with DJ equipment. You know what I'm saying? It's like the jump basically rolled off the truck because it wasn't enough of there wasn't enough resources. That was a microcosm of how little resources there were for our communities, Black, brown communities at that time. So it's very important that we as representatives of the culture understand that we do have a responsibility to take the mindset that I'm not a role model. It's like, then why are you in it? Because somebody's watching, whether you want them to or not. So it's a certain way you got to carry yourself in order to really push the culture forward, not just hip hop culture, but Black culture, community culture, family culture, all of these different things. Like, you have to be responsible with the things that you're putting out. That's
Mm.
just how I look at it, you know.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I said, I was waiting for you to get to the culture, the music, and just the organism that it is unto itself. You have to, remain true and loyal to that.
Yeah.
Um, which song was the most therapeutic for you?
Mm. Dang, out of the whole EP,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, they all were pretty therapeutic. I mean,
I know. That's why I asked the question because if I got a box, that's what you come in my show. You in a box down there. I put you in the box and
yeah,
make you
yeah, yeah,
wiggle.
yeah. You really do. It's a toss up between, because like I said, they're all therapeutic, and it's funny because I think my man Justin, Narcissist, I think he might be on the live right now. We was having a conversation about this yesterday, and he was saying how the album has a really therapeutic feel, and I think the song that might be the most therapeutic for me, if I had to pick one, I say Loner's Remorse.
Mm.
Because it's, I mean, the entire EP is personal, but Loner's Remorse is extremely personal for me because it really digs into the whole thing of being an introvert. And it tackles the idea of, are we born introverts and extroverts, or are we shaped in that way? You know, like, do certain things in terms of personality, because I mean, certain parts of personality get passed on through DNA. You know what I mean? My
Mm-hmm.
mom's mom was the introvert, my dad was the extrovert. And to be honest, I wanted to be, of course, being a boy, I wanted to be more like my dad. He was
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Popularity. He was a guy who, I mean, when he was in high school, when he was in college, this man was a world-class athlete. You know what I'm saying? Like, Olympic
Wow.
caliber athlete. You know what I mean? Like, that's how dope he was. And then just his legend was just, he was just such a larger than life type of figure. No matter where he went, I don't care whether it was in DC, whether he was in Florida, whether he was in Alabama, whether he was in West Virginia, where he was before he passed. Like, all of these places, this man was like, just, he was just so much bigger than life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that was just the presence that he presented. So I wanted to be so much like that. But when I realized that my path wasn't shaping up in the same way that his was, it got frustrating to a point, because it was a thing where it was like, okay, do I want to deal with people? Because I see how people are. People are not kind a lot of times. And kids are especially unkind, because kids don't have the same filters a lot of times that we develop over time as adults, when we realize, I'm like, maybe we might not want to talk to people wild and crazy like that. You know what I'm saying? Now,
Be a
some
good
people,
idea.
yeah, you know what I mean? Now some people don't break out of that. They stay that way, and they'll use excuses like, well, that's just who I am, And it's like, yeah, but that's not cool. You know what I mean?
Right, right. That's not gonna work out for you in this social construct that we got going here, buddy.
Exactly. But yeah, like, I would say that that's the most personal, because it's the balance. it's the one. Well, the whole project to me is a struggle and balance. How do you balance out these particular things? But Loner's Remorse is a specific balance because one of my biggest struggles as a person is I get tunnel vision. And a lot of times I'll get focused on whatever it is that I got going on, whether it's being in a relationship, whether it's being a family man, whether it's music, whether it's radio and media, no matter what it is, whether it was artwork when I was a kid. Like I would get in these zones where I would just get lost in my own world and what I had going on. And I would completely ignore everything else that was going on around me to the point where once I came out of the fog, so to say, a lot of damage had been done, or I just was a fish out of water, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, okay, wow, all this was going on. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. I'll never forget, this had to be like when I was in the 7th grade. And I remember, so I have these moments where I tune in and out of what's going on with music. And so, excuse me. So I tune in and out what's going on with music. So I would never forget hearing Stay by Jodeci and realizing how big it had gotten by that point. Because, I was in tune with Jodeci, but it was just for like maybe a couple of months when I was just kind of in a certain zone. I just tuned out what was going on with the radio. And then I came back. I'm like, dang, this song is big. Like, man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
it was a hit.
Yeah. So it was like, excuse me. So it was like, how do I, how did I miss this? And then I realized, I'm like, dang, like I really was lost in my own little world. And it made me understand the whole thing, what happened probably a couple of months before that. I described this in one of my videos for the Maximum Sentence. And it's also a part of the song where I say, maybe that's why I was voted Boy Who's Out of Tune. That goes to an incident where they had these superlatives. I was in this summer camp, and they had this book of superlatives. And it was like, most likely to whatever, most likely to succeed, or most likely to be the class clown, and all of these other things. And so I ended up being boy who's most out of tune with reality. And at first it hurt to hear that, to see that, because it's like, dang, y'all couldn't find one positive jump for me. Like, one? Like, you couldn't say most artistic. I mean, y'all seen my artwork. Y'all know how I get down. Like, y'all could at least gave me some props on that, but y'all just went automatically to the negative, So it was like, at first it hurt, but then I thought about it, and it was like, but a lot of times I am out of touch with reality because I get in my own world, and a lot of times that's it, that's all. And so the song really challenges me to step out of that and say, you can't make connections in your own bubble. You can't do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't make solid, lasting connections just strictly in your own bubble. Like, it can't happen. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things. It reminds me of something. There's this dude, I think his name is Sauce from Belly TV. And one of the things that he was saying was, a lot of times what artists do is they expect to put this music out, but not really push it, promote it like that, and expect to just be discovered. Excuse me. And that's just not really the reality of it. You don't just get discovered. You don't just put something out and just get discovered. You have to connect with people. You have to have those one-on-one relationships with people. So, I mean, that's just really what it is. Like, that was the challenge for myself. I have to step outside of myself in order to really make lasting connections. Can you give me 1 second? I really need to get some water.
Do your thing, brother. Do your thing.
Appreciate it.
This gives me a chance to plug my new sponsorship. So you
All right.
go get your water.
Appreciate you.
My man. So while he goes and gets the water, I will do my read, Today's show is brought to you by Batch, where balance is a master key to life. Unlock your expression. Y'all head on over after this live to BAMMLLC.net/shop Batch. He got coffee mugs. He got t-shirts. He got all kinds of apparel over there. So y'all go check him out. I even saw a mouse pad on there. I was like, oh, my man got a mouse pad. He got a mouse pad on there.
That's right.
So y'all definitely go check him out. BAMLLC.net/shop Batch.
Appreciate you, brother.
We back in action.
Yes, yes. Lubricated in the voice.
It's all good. Joyful Connections Life Coaching said, I enjoy being in my own world a lot because I can create my own peaceful environment in
Yes.
there. I'm an introvert too.
Yeah.
Sometimes I tell people that they be like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I need time to recharge. I need time to go be in the dark."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nothing personal. I get in the party and I start getting a little anxiety. Like, I know it's time to go now. But
Yeah. You know what's
it's all
interesting about you
good.
saying that part is that so I don't know if you ever did the Myers-Briggs test, which is the personality test. And so that's how I found out I was an introvert, even though I probably knew that anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually what's considered a moderate introvert. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm the type of person I go on a party. Now I stay at the party the entire time. Like I will shut the party down. Like I will grab a broom with the bus boys and be sweeping up after the junk done and everything. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times I think people, particularly at my job, they thought that I was an extrovert. So when they found out I was an introvert, they were like, "You an introvert?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I told them, "Here's the way that you got to look at it with me. Yes, I go around to everybody's desk and I say hi. Like give everybody hugs, give everybody dap. I might give them like 5-10 minutes of conversation or whatever. Like when I first get in the office. But then because I was explaining this to my former branch chief, I was telling her, I was like, now notice what I do after I do all of that. Do you see me for the rest of the day? She was like, no. I'm like, exactly my point. Like once
Mm.
I say my highs and all of that, I go off in my corner. You will not hear from me for the rest of the day because it's like I have to get in a zone in order to be able to do my work. Otherwise, it's like I'm not going to want to do my work because I'm going to be distracted the whole day. So,
Mm. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. Like I said, I need time to recharge.
yeah,
Let's talk about the album cover, right?
yeah.
So when I first saw it, when I first actually looked at it, not the first time I saw it, when I first looked at it, I thought Illmatic, Ready to Die,
Mm.
and Wayne had an album, one of the Carters.
I think it was a
The
Carter 3.
the Carter 3. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. What was the inspiration behind the album cover?
Well, part of it was all of those albums, to be honest, but a larger part of it for me was the innocence. Like
Mm.
this part of life where you're not really shaped, where you're just starting to learn the world and you're starting to try to like figure out, okay, how do I speak? How do I interact with people socially? How do I eat? How do I do a lot of different things? How do I function as a human? And
Mm-hmm.
so that was just one of those pictures that really kind of represented one. I mean, like you think about the background was kind of like a bloomish kind of background, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That was number one. Number two, I always felt like I looked the happiest in that picture. And I always liked that picture. Like ever since I was a kid, I've always loved that picture. You know what I'm saying? The little
Mm-hmm.
jet set joint. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
It'd be nice to
so
snap it up, get your little joint together.
yeah, you couldn't tell me nothing in that picture, man. You know, I don't even know how old
That's
I was in that joint, but I was like, look, you couldn't tell me nothing.
it reminded me of the joint like I don't know if I come to the cookout you having at your grandma's house and I go in the crib to use the bathroom. I'm like, yo, I seen the picture on the wall, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
But that joint's
exactly.
dope.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
dope. It's
It's
dope.
definitely an on the wall picture.
It's an on the wall picture, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, for sure.
But it looks good. Like I said, I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, that joint right on point. Let me ask you this. Um, what is my benefit as a listener to listening to the late bloomer?
That is a really good question. Man, that's an excellent question. Um, ooh, so it's such a great question because that's the biggest reason why I tailored the late bloomer the way I did. Because I want people to understand that no matter what stands in your way, whatever personal things that you have, whatever hangups you may have, whatever fears you may have, these things are only as strong as you allow them to be. They're only as much obstacles as you allow them to be. And so that's part of it. Then another part of it is kind of sort of going back to your question about um, youth and being in hip hop, and the whole thing of hip hop as a young man's sport, which I think is asinine. But I really feel like it's a matter of an able person's sport. How able are you? How talented are you? And it's really the
Mm.
same thing across with anything. Because I mean, yes, I'm speaking from the perspective of being an artist, and it's not being too late for me. But I'm also speaking from the perspective of I'm still above ground. I'm still here to be able to tell my story, to give my testimony. So it doesn't matter how old I am. If I were 50 and I still had bars, you still be getting these bars. You know what I'm saying? If I'm
So you're
50,
gonna always have balls then.
oh yeah, oh yeah, I'm gonna always have bars as far as I'm concerned. I'm gonna always have bars. I'm gonna always have an ear for music. So it doesn't matter how old I am. Now, I do have a personal cutoff in terms of when I'm going to stop.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I'm not going to let society's expectations of how old I am tell me when I should stop doing something, especially if it's something that doesn't have to do with the body. Like, it's different with sports.
Hmm.
Your body is not going to react the same when you get in your 40s as it did when you were in your 20s. It's just one of those things. Your body breaks down. But this, you can always keep sharp. As long as you don't suffer from anything like dementia or Alzheimer's, you can keep your brain sharper than anything that you have, because your brain is one of the most powerful tools, one of the most powerful muscles you have in your body. So as long as I keep this sharp and I keep my imagination active, like, and people call on me to do stuff, I'm like, look, I'm down for it. And I think that's what really, in terms of the benefit, that's the benefit that I'm trying to get across to people, is that don't let anybody tell you that it's too late to do anything. Like,
Facts.
they don't control your narrative. You control your narrative at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? As long as God gives you breath in your body to be able to do what you do, then you continue to do it until he tells you it's time to stop. Until he tells you it's time to shift gears and do something else. But don't let it be a thing where society tells you you can't do this because of blank. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like, or you shouldn't do this because of blank. That's why every song that's in this EP and the next EP, every song has its place, because it's coming from a different angle of
Hmm.
different topics. And just saying, get out of your own way. And if you got to push other people out of the way who aren't pushing you towards your destiny, then you might have to slide them out the way too. You know what I'm saying? So,
Woo, 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 woo. Yeah, 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 yeah. If you in the way, I'm trying to get from DC to Cali.
mm-hmm.
Every other state in between, you gotta get out the way.
That's right. That's
You
right.
gotta move, You gotta
Mm.
move, and it don't matter how old I am. So I'm with that, and I went through that. I went through that about the age of. Actually, that was 2010, 2011. So maybe early 30s, late 20s, early 30s. After I had already became a cop,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew that it would be a thing. Like, okay, how's this gonna work with me being a cop and I rap
Right.
and I meditate? I went into meditation one day, and the ether was like, don't really care what anybody else got to say. That's not what we here for. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you.
Exactly.
Let's move into the day in the life of an independent artist. So
Yes.
you wake up. You wake up. What's the first thing you do in terms of your artistry in the morning or whenever it is that you wake up?
In terms of my artistry, it all depends on the morning, but there are a lot of times where I get an idea for something, no matter what the idea is. It could be a beat, it could be lyrics, whatever it is. I always believe in recording the moment, in the moment. If I'm able to
Mm-hmm.
write it down, I don't care if it's one bar, I don't care if it's 16 bars, I don't care if it's 50 bars. You know what I'm saying? It's like, write that bar down, because you never know when you might need to plug and play a bar real quick. You know what I'm saying? So,
Mm-hmm.
so I mean,
So
that's
wake up, write the bar. If that's what you got, you sit, you record what is there.
right. Exactly. Exactly. You know, because you have to take advantage of those moments, frankly, when God gives them to you. Because I tell anybody, this is not me. You know what I'm saying? Like I am a vehicle, or I'm a vessel. You know, like I can't take all the credit for my talent or anything I do. When I get an idea for something, I know it's from God. When I get a bar, I know it's from God. You know what I'm saying? When I get a melody in my head, I know it's from God. So it's like, to not record that moment is kind of a slap in the face to God. Like, especially if you asking for the inspiration, it's like you praying for it, you asking for it, you need it in order to really bolster your artistry. You have to take advantage of that moment that God gives you and say it's kind of like the whole thing of like when God sends you. I guess the man that was like waiting on Jesus or whatever, he waiting for the boat. You know, all the boats go by and all the help goes by, and he don't take the help because he waiting
Mm.
on God. And God was like, "Well, I sent you a boat."
Right,
I sent you a whole bunch of help. Like, what you do with it? You know what I mean?
You ain't
That's
getting the
how I look.
message.
Right, exactly. That's how I look at those ideas. Like, I don't care how small or big the idea is. I write it all down. I write everything down. Or when it comes to the beats, because it's a little bit different with beats.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I use voice memos on my phone. You know, having an iPhone, I use a voice memo app, and I use that to beatbox whatever my idea is. And I will do it like if I get a bass line, I will beatbox the bass line so I can remember how it sounds. If it's a Rhodes sound, a keyboard sound, I'll beatbox
Mm-hmm.
that. If it's just the drums, if it's the congas, whatever it might be, no matter what the sound is, it could be the hi-hats. No matter what the sound is, if I have a specific vision for whatever this song is, I will beatbox it. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times, first thing in the morning, that's what happens in terms of the creative process. And I'll say this for anybody out there who is creative, no matter what your creative, no matter what your creative gift or anointing is every idea matters, even if you never use it, because you never know when it's going to come back around. You never know
Wow.
when it's going to come back around. You never know when God is going to use you to use that. You know what I'm saying? It's ideas that I've had that have sat on the shelf for like 5 years, even up to 10 years. But God brought me back to it. Was like, nah, I want you to come back to this because this was a great idea. So let's build on this. You know what I mean? A
Mm.
lot of the songs, honestly, from the late bloomer have been ideas that I had been working on for at least 5 years. You know, a lot of them, not all of them, but a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them, these are things that were being built up over a matter of years. And it took a little time for me to say, okay, now I'm ready to work on it. But thank God that I actually wrote it down. Thank God I actually beatboxed this particular sound so that I could remember it and wouldn't forget it. Thank God I wrote down this one line so that I wouldn't, I wouldn't forget it. So,
So that being said, and I know what you're talking about because I've had plenty of rhymes pop in and I didn't write it down and they're gone. And then I will hear somebody that has a hit record
yep,
use the basic line, and
yep,
I'm not gonna get super metaphysical, but it made me think that like there's an aspect of the creator that is just unmanifest that we all can go tap into, and it's like you went up or it came down. You connected with it to get that idea. Now, if you
mm-hmm,
don't manifest that idea is going to Wayne. That idea is going to
right,
Jay. That
right,
idea is going to Nas. And oh well.
yeah,
Sorry about your luck. You know what I'm
right,
saying?
yeah, yeah,
So I'm with you. Let me ask
yeah.
you this. Um, that being said, on average, when the pen hits the pad, how long does it take you to write a song?
On average, I would say anywhere between an hour or two, because
Hmm.
my thing is I'm always about concepts and visuals.
Mm-hmm.
And when I write, the way that I write, it has to tell a story. Like I'm a storyteller because I never really had the patience to write a book, but I could write a rhyme and make it feel like a book. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
In a matter of minutes. And so that's why my process, because I know some people say they can write a song in 15 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like from start to finish. I'm like, yeah, I'm not that person. Like
Yeah, me neither.
when I was younger, I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm older and I look at the way that I approach my songs differently. And also I study beats. I study, how I'm going to flow, how I'm going to have this synergy with the beat, the kind of ride. You see? Exactly. You know what I mean?
It's like
You
boxing, you
MC,
know what
you
I'm
get it?
saying?
Exactly. You
Yeah.
get it?
I know. You gotta find the pockets. It's other pockets. It's places where I'm supposed to rhyme, but I don't have to because I could catch it on that third hi hat on the backside, and
Right,
I'm gonna hit it with this
exactly.
joint. You be like, ooh, but I can't do
Exactly.
that in 15 minutes though.
Right,
I'm
exactly.
gonna need some time.
Yeah. I mean, it's a balance between studying it enough and studying it too much. It's the whole thing: study long, study wrong. But at the same time, you still have to study. Like the thing about me as an artist, I'm a student of the game first. I respect the craft enough to know to look at the people who were the greats that came before me, to look at the people who not only could hit you with witty lyrics, but they could hit you with a flow that's just like it's undeniable. And that's something
Mm-hmm.
that I had to over time I had to learn how to do. And that's frankly why it takes me longer than it used to. It's not that I'm overthinking it. And sometimes I do. I'm not gonna lie. But for me, it's about how do I respect this beat? How do I respect this
Mm.
instrumental? How do I respect the spirit that's behind this, whether I create it or whether somebody else creates it? How do I respect the craft and the culture with what I'm about to write down to this particular song? How can I elevate it? Those are the things that I ask myself, or I challenge myself to do when I'm writing. And so that's why my process isn't as short as some people's process, but it ends up
Mm.
working out. You know what I mean? Because for me, like I said, it's about telling the story. It's about having the flow. It's about having enough wittiness to keep people interested, but not hitting people with like just endless punchlines if they're unnecessary. Like you gotta know how to time those punchlines. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
and I also feel like some people get caught up in punchlines, but I also feel like you can have a punchline that's not obvious. You can have something that's
Mm-hmm.
like witty, that's something that makes you think, but it's not necessarily like a metaphor or a simile type of punchline. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's jump in the comments right quick. Um, I love Rican's part two. Said, let that motherfucker simmer.
My
My wife said,
man.
Thriller in Manila.
That's my guy, Jay, my man Jay Rivera.
Jay
That's
Rivera, he also said, flow like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
right.
Narcissist 716 said, the writing process is different when you get in that zone. You can clip a song in 45 minutes.
That's my guy,
And Melissa
Narcissist.
said she'd love to hear you beatbox.
Oh man. Okay. I mean
So y'all follow him, and he get on the live for you one day or something.
Right. People can really see my process. That's what she gave me a great idea. I'm gonna actually film myself beatboxing one day. An idea.
You should, because I think we've reached a point where, and you hit on it earlier, you're not just going to make a, a piece of art, music, and have people flock to it. That's not where we are necessarily, right? But
Right.
people do want to see the process. Sometimes it's the process that makes people gravitate. They like, wow, it was cool to watch nothing. That's the thing about creation and music to me that's so dope is that at one point, you know, your EP didn't exist and now
Mm-hmm.
it does,
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's what's dope. Oh, appreciate it. Joyful Connections Life Coach. And she said
Thank
she
you.
followed you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I just followed you back. I appreciate that. I'm
Oh
that
man, that's
guy.
cool. Y'all
You
doing the
follow me and you
following
ain't on
thing.
some weird stuff. I follow back.
My fault. Hold on, my fault. The next question is very important, and it's the last one I have on being an independent artist because I got a couple other questions I want to definitely get answered.
Okay.
What is your price to sign with a major?
Oh, that's a great question. Um,
Oh,
I don't know if I have a set price because yeah, I don't know if I have a set price because for me it's about a partnership. I look at what
Mm-hmm.
Nipsey had when he signed with Atlantic. When he signed with Atlantic, he had already built up his following to a certain point. Whereas, and I see that's a great question. I see this just popped up. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, that's the way I kind of look at it. Like he got into a partnership with Atlantic Records. He already had a certain value coming in, saying like, "Look, I done this on the streets already. I done this independently already. The only thing I really need y'all for is the distribution and the bigger marketing plan that y'all probably have that I wouldn't be able to do on my own. Even though I was able to do
Mm-hmm.
a lot on my own, y'all are connected to a huge conglomerate. So for me, it would have to be the same thing because I enjoy my independence and I enjoy being able to create music on my terms without having to sit here and chase for a hit or chase for a particular sound to sit here and try to excuse me, fit in with a bunch of 20 something year olds when I'm in my 40s. It's like I'm not going to make the same music that they make. And I'm not fitting to sit here and make the same music they make if it's not a natural progression of where my art is going. Now, if it ends up kind of blending with what they do, then fine. But what I don't really like about a lot of the majors is that they don't invest enough in the artists now. They invest even less in the artists now because it's an even higher risk to sign an artist because you end
Mm-hmm.
up a lot of times losing money, especially in this era when people are receiving music differently than they would
Mm-hmm.
have say 20, 30 years ago. Like this ain't the 90s, unfortunately. Like that time in terms of how people sold records, that time is gone. Like you really have to hustle and be on some Drake mega superstar type stuff. And not everybody's that. You know what I'm saying? The fact that
Mm-hmm.
Drake does the numbers he does is because this has been a steady thing over for more than a decade now. But the
Mm-hmm.
average artist, they're not going to get that. And a lot of these record companies know that. So that's why, I frown on some of these things like 360 deals where they try to get everything, every little piece of what you do, from tours to merch to sponsorships to whatever. They want a piece of it all. It's like, nah, y'all not. I'm the one that's out here on the grind, putting in the work to create all of these things. Y'all not fitting to sit here and take all my money or get a piece of everything that I do or think that you're going to put your name behind everything that I do. So for me to get with a major, they would have to understand that this is a partnership. This is not a slave ship. You know what I mean?
Woo-wee. Oh man, this is a partnership. This is not a slave ship. I'm still in that. That's going to be my next ride.
Hey, do it. Do it.
I'll shout you out.
My man.
Let me jump on this right quick. Keisha said amazing talk. Um, Narcissist 716 said the key thing Nipsey did was never call the project an album. And I saw him say that in that interview too, or somebody was talking about him saying that. He says
Hmm.
it gave him leverage because he didn't have a footprint. 50 Cent gave Nip that knowledge.
Yep.
Um, Facts. Real quick, how do you deal with writer's block?
Okay, so great question. First and foremost, Honey Wordsmith, thank you for asking that question. So with writer's block, it's tough sometimes because I feel like most people who are creatives go through it at some point, whether they go through it a lot or whether they go through it a little. But for me, a lot of times I kind of take the Rakim approach. And one of the things that Rakim said in an interview one time is that he never goes through writer's block because he's living life. And when you're living life, you're gaining experience, you're gaining inspiration in order to constantly fuel your art. And that's what I try to do. Even if I'm not actively writing a full song, I'm taking notes. I'm doing some kind of journaling, even if it's not like outright journaling. I'm doing some kind of taking account of what's going on in my life so that I can express this in song form at some point. So when I sit there and I build up this arsenal of things that I can write about, and those could be the things. And I want to say this for writers and people who are creators out there. That idea of whatever the song is that you want to write about. That's putting an investment toward the song itself, even if you don't write a bar. What I do a lot of times, if I get an idea for a song, I will write out like, okay, this is the overarching point of this song.
Mm-hmm.
If I start getting visions in terms of how I want to attack each verse, like, okay, in this verse I want to talk about A, in this verse I want to talk about B, in this verse I want to talk about C. And some people might look at it like, oh, it's too scripted, but for me it's like I have to stay organized with my thoughts, because I can't stand when I listen to other artists and they're not organized with their thoughts. Like, their thoughts are just so
Mm-hmm.
all over the place. And it's like they're
Right.
trying to execute a concept, but because they didn't take the time to really organize how they wanted to go about it, now it's like, okay, all right, you lost me. You know what I mean? Whereas
Right.
me, it's very important for me to organize all of my thoughts to the point where it's like, okay, this is how I want to go about it, so that it continues on with a story. People feel like they want to follow along because you're coherent in your thoughts. You know what I mean? So for
Mm.
me, that process of constantly writing things down, that's how I attack writer's block. I get it, but I don't get it, so to say. Like, I might not write the whole song right then and there, but because I actually took the time to write down my ideas and be specific about how I want to create this song, even down to like the musical inspirations that I might have when I'm creating the music for the song, I write that stuff down because it gives me a guide. Like, I don't get the block because I have a guide for myself always. So I always have something to look to in order to say, okay, this is what you're going to write about, or this is what you want to write about. Even if it doesn't come out exactly the way that you intended, at least you're being intentional in writing it down and saying, I'm committing myself to making this an idea and doing something with it.
My man, got you. Yeah, I did that with time myth theory. I don't know if you heard it, but
I've heard
I
pieces
was
of
in
it.
the yeah, I was in the car. I was in the car with a coworker one day, and we were just having one of those deep metaphysical conversations, and we were talking about time. And I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna write a song about time not being real. Like how I'm gonna see, can I construct this thing in the arguments in rap form to be like time ain't real? Because most people believe in eternal life. So if you believe that you're gonna live forever, how could time be a part of your reality? But
That's real.
I didn't have a beat, I didn't have any of that. But I said, what I did was I put it in my phone.
Yeah.
Like, make a song about time not being real.
Yeah.
And now, it's here.
Yeah.
Um, no explanation on this one, just the answer, right?
Okay.
What's your favorite song of all time?
Ooh, favorite song. Oh, actually, that's easy. Cheers to You by Player. So
Okay,
be
I have to look that one up.
yeah. So Player, they are a group from Louisville, Kentucky, and
Okay,
they were on Def Jam's R&B imprint, Def Soul, which
okay,
also housed Kelly Price, Montel Jordan, Myron. Shane was on a little while ago. Shane know all about Myron. I want to say Mona Lisa was on that label too. Um,
okay,
and it was a couple of other people that they had on that label, but like Player, they were associated with Timberland's The Basement, well, Devontae's The Basement Crew. It started off with Devontae, and then it ended up being like Timberland's thing. So they was down with Timberland, Missy, Aaliyah, all of them. So that's definitely my favorite song. Definitely my
yeah, I
favorite
just
song
looked
right
it
there.
up on my old phone, so I'm gonna listen to it. I'm gonna
Yeah,
listen to it and be like, okay, because I can't say I've ever heard it, or I'm gonna hear it and be like, oh, I know this joint.
you
How did I
might,
not know that?
if you watched Midnight Love back in the day, then you might remember it
I
on
should.
BT.
Let's see. Camille, Auntie said Louisville, Kentucky. That's her
Okay, all right.
hometown. Louisville, Kentucky, in
Yeah.
the house. So, have you watched like all my interviews, like all the way through before? You've been here to the end before?
Oh yeah, absolutely,
All right.
absolutely.
You know what time it is, right?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I know you cheated because everybody cheats at this point. So you have to give me your top five, dead or alive, the five people you would like to sit down with and have an intimate conversation. They could be dead or alive, or fictional. It's up to you. You let me know.
Exactly, and yeah, like my man Nasser said, they also did writing for Aaliyah, specifically Static Major. Rest in peace, Static Major. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Static Major is actually the one who was singing on Lollipop by Lil Wayne.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but so my top five. I start off with Jesus.
Mm.
I would say Jesus because I want to know, how did you really deal with a lot of them temptations? You know what I'm saying? Like, the Bible only tell you but so much. I'm like, how do you really handle that stuff? Like, what were you really thinking? You know what I mean? Like, because it's one thing to like present him as the example of living a blemish-free life, but it's another thing to like really dig into, okay, what was really going through his mind? You know what I'm saying? When one of them jumps walk up
Well,
on him.
Murray ran up on him.
You know what I
Stop,
mean?
child.
That's what I want to know. Somebody made him angry. Like, what did he really want to do? You know what I mean?
He started flipping tables. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know. We had this perception that like he was in control of his emotions, and maybe he was, right?
Right.
But he did some stuff that we would have been like, "Yo, man, flipping his table, yeah."
Right. Exactly.
People get angry.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Jesus wasn't no punk. You know what I'm saying? Let's
Oh,
get that
nah.
clear. Not at all. Anybody that go through what he went through, you ain't no punk. You know what I mean? But I
strong.
just, yeah, exactly. I just want to know some of those backstories, and then I also would want to know more of like his life between the time he was like born and those 3 years before he was crucified. Like, because they don't really talk about that stuff in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? So he would be one.
Okay.
Michael Eric Dyson. I'm a huge fan of his work as a writer. He's actually one of my favorite writers. So I would want to sit down with him just to like have an intellectual conversation about like hip hop, about life, period. About religion, about spirituality, about just a lot of different things. I don't know if you've read his book, Jay-Z Made in America, but it's an excellent book because it really it unpacks Jay-Z in bigger picture, in terms of the importance of his lyrics and the importance of his presence in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? The thing that I've been basically trying to explain to a lot of people who didn't really get the whole thing with Jay-Z, and like specifically with me, him being my favorite rapper. Because a lot of people didn't understand it. I'm like, read this book and you'll understand it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I got to shout out my man, my main man, Jay, who was on here. I think he might still be on here. He gifted me that book. And you know what I'm saying? He gifted it to me partially for that reason, because he gained an even bigger respect for Jay-Z after reading that book. But Michael Eric Dyson, he had the intelligence to be able to express these things, and that's the type of stuff that I want to sit down and talk with him about.
Was he the one that I know who Michael Eric Dyson is, but
yeah,
one of the scholars deconstructed Illmatic. Did he do Illmatic?
He might have. I would not be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm gonna look it up right quick.
Yeah.
And you could tell me your number 3. I'm gonna look it up while you give me your number 3. So we got Jesus and Michael Eric Dyson.
Okay. So then my 3 is a tandem, but I couldn't talk to these two separate and apart. I would have to talk to them together.
Okay.
Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff. They are the creators of Philadelphia International Records. Anybody who doesn't know about Philly International, OJ's, Howard Melvin, Blue Notes, Billy Paul, 3 Degrees, and then just all of the artists that their house band MFSB ended up working with, the Stylistics, the Spinners, the Manhattans. Even if they didn't have direct things to do with it, they created a tree. Yes, exactly, Honeyworth Smith. He also wrote about Pac. I have that book. I read that book as well. The one Michael Eric Dyson wrote about Tupac, which is a really good book. But Gamble and Huff, they were like really part of a movement, a wave of really just influential music, specifically in the 70s. You know what I'm saying? And I would want to sit down with them. First and foremost, I wish I could sit down with them in the old Sigma Sound studio in Philly and had a conversation with them, like be in that room, in that vibe, and just feel the energy of all of the history that was created in that room, and just kind of a conversation like, yo, where was y'all minds at when y'all created For the Love of Money, or when y'all were behind For the Love of Money? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Or Wake Up Everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, what was it like to be in on that session? Like, I would just
Right.
want to be able to sit down and talk to them about stuff like that, because when I listen to that music, I wish that I was alive during that time. You know what I'm saying? And like alive
Mm.
and old enough to be able to appreciate it, because the 70s is like my favorite period of music, but specifically 70s Philly soul. You know what I'm saying? Anything that 70s Philly soul influenced, because a lot of people don't talk about it, but they were really instrumental in the development of disco music. Like a lot of that music came from them first.
Okay, so do they count as 3 and 4? Or you doubling up on 3?
Doubling up on three.
Okay, who's number
Yeah.
4?
All right, number four, I would say would be Tina Marie.
Really?
Yes, I'm a huge Tina Marie fan. You know, um,
Okay.
I almost said Phyllis Hyman over Tina Marie, but the reason I,
Mm.
I would pick Tina Marie is because of her musicianship, and not to knock Phyllis Hyman, because Phyllis Hyman is actually one of my favorite singers. Singing wise, I would pick Phyllis Hyman over Tina Marie, but
Mm-hmm.
musicianship, I would want to know from Tina Marie, how was it being a white woman crossing over to R&B versus the other way around? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you white, you automatically kind of sort of get put into the pop category a lot of times, especially when you don't make, say, like country music or rock music or anything like
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? Like, how was that, number one? How did it feel when Motown wouldn't put your face on the cover of your first
Mm-hmm.
album for Motown because you were white?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
especially knowing how a lot of black artists were treated that way when their music came out. They wouldn't put our faces on stuff. So I would
Mm-hmm.
want to know things like that. I would want to know, like, I would want to sit with her in terms of like watching her create musically, because I mean, she was an incredible musician. Incredible. You know what I mean? So that would be my conversation with her. You know what I mean?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Who's number 5? Who's the last one?
Jill Scott. Jill Scott.
Really?
From
Jill Scott
from
has never come up in the top 5.
hey, well, hey, hey, she definitely got to come up in mine.
She here now.
You know what I mean? She just got an energy that I enjoy. Like, I enjoy listening to her talk. I enjoy the way she approaches music. But then also looking at her in terms of broadening her spectrum into being an actress as well. You know, like, just going through, want to know really just her creative process. Like, how does she
Mm-hmm.
create? And just kind of just sit and kick it with her, talk about life. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would really be the main thing. Even though, she's, always been like my number one TV girlfriend, but we won't go there. But
See, I know you had a crush on her. You want to take a long walk with her. That's what it is. But you married, so you
hey, when I
can't
heard
go.
long walk, I was like, look, I'm good for a long. I could walk 2.5 hours, baby. I can
Humans, we can walk a long way. We can walk to freedom, baby. You go all the way to Canada.
Right, exactly. But seriously though, it would be one of those things where I would just want to have like a down to earth, cool conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause she just seemed like one of the people, like, she just has great conversation. So yeah, that rounds
Gotcha.
out my top 5.
All right, cool. So you got your top 5 in. Um, I always give my guests an opportunity to ask me a question. So if you have any question that you would like to ask me, this is your moment to pick my brain the way I pick yours.
Okay, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Do you think that you would make another album as an artist?
I'll answer it like this.
Okay.
I am willing to make another album if it is a group process.
Okay.
So, um, God's Lyricist was an album that I'm not a producer. I don't make beats really. I can, but that's not what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But other than gathering the beats, I did everything. I wrote it, I recorded it, I mixed it, I mastered it, I
Okay.
released it, I promoted it. I'm not doing all of that, right?
Yeah.
That's not happening anymore. What I am willing to do, if you wanted to get an album out of me, I would have somebody like DJ Shane 202. Yo, go find me 30 beats. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? I get with you and be like, yo, you helping me on the hooks and the pockets,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I would have a team of people. And the albums that I kind of think of are like my Dark Twisted Fantasy,
Yes.
um,
Yes. My favorite albums
probably
ever.
like the Black Album, the Blueprint, where you just could tell like it was a whole team
Mm-hmm.
project. It was his album or whatever.
Right. Right.
So if that were the case, I'd be down.
Yeah.
I ain't
Okay.
mixing, I ain't mastering, but
Yeah.
if that were the case, and I get that question from time to time online and offline, and I'll be like, yo, like I'm down, but I need a team.
Yeah. And that's an honest answer. I really I appreciate that answer because a lot of times, especially as independent artists, we have to end up we have to be everything. We have to be
Mm-hmm.
our own engineer. We have to be our own producer. We have to be our own PR person. We have to be our own sound man. We have to be our own publicist. We have to be our own manager. We have to do everything. And a lot of times it gets tiring. Like you need other people to be involved to really help you to be successful because especially for people like us, us being introverts, it's like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we could sit and do what we do on our own, but we don't want to have to do everything on our own. You know what I'm
Nope.
saying? Because
Nope.
we tax ourselves in that way. So
Right.
I definitely respect that, bro.
Yeah, man. So I've been thinking about it. I've been pondering it. Like Shane got me on the album on 2 joints, so he pulled 2 verses. It was pulling teeth. You know what I'm saying? He's like, "Hey, dog, I need that verse." Like I got you. I'm writing the verse tonight at work. I promise. I
he
got
gonna
you.
he gonna bring you back somehow.
Oh, he clear. Oof. I woke up rapping through the
Right.
hellfire to spit divinity's riff. You ain't never in your life seen a night like this. But y'all can listen to that on Hustle and Motivate on Shane's album. So,
Yes, sir. Yes,
my
sir.
brother, it's nice to finally talk to you. It's nice to finally meet you. I
Yes,
appreciate
indeed.
you sitting down with me, letting me pick your brain a little bit. And
Absolutely.
one last plug for the batch. Balance is the master key to life. Unlock your expression.
Yes,
BAM,
sir.
BAMMLLC.net/shop batch. Y'all go check that out. If you don't follow him, follow him. If you don't follow me, or don't follow me. I'll be here either way. And I love you, bro, and I'm looking forward to catching up on your YouTube channel too. I think I'm about 2 videos behind, but I'm gonna catch up. I promise.
It's all good, brother. I tell anybody, I'm like, take your time. People live life. So it's no pressure, brother. I appreciate all the support that you've thrown me. Since we connected, and I gotta make sure that I shout my man out. We just shouted him out a couple of times, but shout out DJ Shane. For really me watching your program through him, and then just seeing like how your podcast, your show works, and everything. I just love, and I want to make sure I give you your flowers on air. I absolutely love the way you approach this thing, bro. Like you bring on different people. It's never the same type of people all the time. Like you switch it up, and we need more platforms like this in the space. So I definitely appreciate you, my brother, and I love you too.
My man, love. Till next time, y'all. Peace.
Peace.